The minimum wage is $9.19. Unemployment is 4.7%. Those are facts. Those are hard facts right there. That shows that unemployment goes down. The greediest business owners will commit austerity, as the gentleman said earlier, and they will fail. Those who treat their employers more fairly will have the business that comes with that and happier employees. City Council, it is time to stop waiting for public pressure to make change. It is time to stop bowing to corporate interests. It is time to do the right thing for those that you claim to represent. Which side are you on, City Council? Which side are you on?
Jonathan Forslers, followed by Jane Shin.
City Council, thank you for allowing me to speak here today. My name is Jonathan Forschler. I live off of 135th Street in SeaTac. About several months ago, I had a woman that came and knocked on my door to ask me to sign for this petition, for this initiative. She talked about it, that it was to affect the workers of the airport, to bring up their wages. I've had family that have worked there. I've done a few jobs there, so I had some sympathy on that. But I also felt misled after learning more about this initiative on how it will, well, on how it really affects. She said that it would be no cost to us, the taxpayers, or as the city. Living here in the city, I know that the taxpayers, we do pay our taxes one way or the other. And this, with manpower to enforce this initiative, with things that really, I'm a member of a union, and these things are done by my union. It's not done by the city. It shouldn't be done by the city. If these people want union representation, they should have union representation, not city representation. Really, there's nothing that's there. Businesses always go. I've worked in small business in the past too, and businesses always go with what's cheaper. There's nothing holding a business to stay and operate here in SeaTac, other than those that are there inside the airport, because the airport would be too big and expensive to move. But smaller businesses will just move out. They'll take their businesses to areas where there is not the minimum wage of $15 an hour, and they'll move to areas like Berrien, Tukwila, where that is not the case. So I see that it driving business out of SeaTac, taxable revenue out of SeaTac, and putting more of a taxable burden on us that actually live in SeaTac. Thank you for your time and letting me speak.
Thank you. Jane Shin, followed by Jeff Getty.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Jane Shin, and I represent Korean American Hotel Association as a Washington Chamber member. My association president, Mr. Charles Lee, and fellow members are here with me tonight to express our opposition to this initiative. You may heard last week some similar speech, but the figures are totally out of question, so I added my opinion. As a co-owner of a hotel located in SeaTac, my family became devastated when we heard that the value of our property dropped significantly as soon as this ordinance was announced. We figured that for our 103-room hotel, we would need an additional $250,000 annually to cover the cost of increased payroll. With payroll tax, it's about $3,000, which is about half of our gross income, all the payroll and payroll tax is more than our half of our gross income. That this money, we just simply we don't have this money. And in this bad economy, banks do not want to lend money to hotels. Then, thank you. We concluded that we should sell the hotel, which is the result of our lifetime hard work, our American dream. We had a potential buyer, but the deal fell through when the buyer found out of this initiative. We have two buyers, but both they refused to go on. To meet the payroll, it is inevitable to raise the room rate, but I'm afraid we'll lose the guests. They're going to go choose nearby cities. Costs to run hotel business in every category have increased. However, hotel room charge rate today is lower than 2007. We unfortunately cannot raise the rate to cover the increased burden to this initiative will impose on us. If this initiative passes, we'll end up laying off housekeepers and front desk agents, and the worst scenario, we may file a bankruptcy. Hopefully it never happens to us. And I really wish we have enough, make enough revenue to pay higher wage and good benefits, but in reality, we can't. So please help us. Don't let this initiative pass. Let us survive this tough economy together. Thank you.
Jeff Getty, followed by Gary Smith. Mr. Getty. Gary Smith.
Thank you. My name is Gary Smith, and I've been helping small businesses grow and prosper and hire employees in the state of Washington for 40 years. I have to tell you that this is about the most anti-small business proposal I have yet to see in 40 years of my experience in this regard. It's going to hurt small businesses' ability to hire workers, and that's bad for workers. It's a lose-lose proposition. I hope the voters in SeaTac understand that. It's going to hurt both the business community, the tax revenues of the city of SeaTac, and the workers in the city of SeaTac. Tonight is a rather sharp contrast from what I was doing last night. I was working with a group of my church volunteers and feeding the folks at Tent City. And those folks would love to have jobs at minimum wage, but most of them don't. It's an unfortunate situation. How will the taxpayers in the city of SeaTac actually pay for the administration of this law? That's been put to you a number of times. This is an extremely complex law to administer. I have followed the Seattle Sick and Safe Leave law. I know what it takes for a small employer to comply with it. The administration by a city is amazingly high. You have to compute the leave based upon 90 seconds of leave for every hour an employee is in the city where this particular law is in place. Your initiative doesn't give all that detail. You're going to have to figure that out down the road. It is an administrative nightmare. You've heard from small business owners that have come before you tonight explaining the realities of how this will affect small businesses in SeaTac. I don't have to do that. They've done a splendid job. I think the lady that was just up here a minute ago that said she lost 2 buyers for her facility once they understood this initiative was before them, that's catastrophic, and that's going to start happening time and time and time again in SeaTac. That hurts your city. I can tell you the people at Tent City would love to have the jobs that are out here. They're not going to demand $15 an hour. They just like the opportunity. They need to gain some experience. They need to show that they show up on time, that they're punctual, that they learn, that they do a good job. They want a job recommendation, and that's what they will get when they have a minimum wage job and an opportunity. Bottom line is, this proposal will make you an economic island in SeaTac in the state of Washington. You will have the worst place to locate a business in the state of Washington. I don't think you want to go there. I hope your voters and you will reject this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe, is there another sign-up sheet out in the audience anywhere? No. Not seeing one? Okay. Councilmember Fennell, do you wish to read your email?
Yes, the council received this email from a citizen, and he asked me if I would read it, and I said I would read this. I am reading this for Ronald L. Bensley, Jr., 3425 South 176th Street in SeaTac. Dear council members and city manager Cutts, due to a personal scheduling conflict, I may not be able to attend tonight's regular meeting to offer comment regarding Agenda Bill 3527. At this time, I am offering the council in writing my concerns about and objections to this agenda bill and the proposed ordinance, and specifically authorize this to be incorporated into the public record as a testimony offered by the public at tonight's meeting. I also authorize council members to quote my testimony as authorized by applicable state law. Below are my remarks in opposition to Agenda Bill 3527. The remarks begin now. I have spoken eloquently in the past regarding the growing gap between the rich and the poor in America, but make no mistake, I think this resolution calling for a special municipal election to be held on November 5th, 2013 regarding a proposed ordinance setting minimum employment standards is fundamentally wrong, all in capitals. It is, all in caps, bad public policy to have the local municipal government effectively acting as a collective bargaining agent for private sector workers. The true and correct agencies to handle employment standards matters in the U.S. Department of Labor is the U.S. Department of Labor and the Washington State Department of Labor and Industries. City council members and all voters, please keep in mind that if this misguided proposed ordinance were to be passed, it will be challenged in the courts. This will force the city of SeaTac to incur significant legal expenses involved in defending itself, including not only the costs of a King County Superior Court action, but also likely appeals to the Court of Appeals and even to the State Supreme Court. Such litigation is very expensive. Also, the City of SeaTac's insurance carrier might not assist the city in paying the costs of the litigation defense. It is very possible that they might take the position that the City Council failed to mitigate their damages. The city's insurance carrier might issue a reservation of rights letter, either denying or limiting the carrier's responsibility for paying the city's legal bills and or paying any indemnity against the city imposed by a court of law. I'm sorry if some valued friends on the City Council don't agree with me on this subject. For the record, my own personal political values fall smack dab in the middle between those of the 4-member council majority and the 3-member council minority, Fernald Forschler and Terry Anderson. I honestly am convinced this measure will have a horrible adverse impact on the job opportunities within the city of SeaTac. My objections to this matter are not intended as a direct criticism of members of the council's 4-member majority. Passage of this initiative...
Can you summarize, please?
Did I hear a beep? Did it beep?
I think you forgot to put the clock on you.
Oh, okay. Okay, so the end of it, he just says, please do not vote in favor of Agenda Bill 3527, and please do not support this tragically misguided and legally flawed ordinance setting minimum employment standards.
Thank you. Mr. Forstler, I believe you have an email you also want to read?
Yes, thank you. So this is a similar comment from another one. Are you going to start the? You can start the timer. So this is from a citizen in SeaTac. His name is Ralph Nichols. He lives at 17629 42nd Avenue South. Says there is no compelling urgency to rush this proposed initiative onto the November general election ballot, and legitimate concerns remain about certain signatures on the initiative petitions and about the number of issues addressed by this initiative. Therefore, I respectfully request that you take no action on the ordinance at this time. Were it to be approved, this initiative backed by special interests outside of the city of SeaTac would bring irreversible harm to businesses and employees within the city limits, to our city government through the resulting loss of local tax revenues, and to our citizens through then necessary reductions in city services. The laws of economics can no more be altered than can the laws of physics, and an attempt to do so in response to a feel-good proposal that would benefit only certain workers and unions would open the door to unintended consequences, none of which would be good. Action on the proposed ordinance, which addresses an initiative that was hastily foisted on the CTAC voters, should be delayed to allow a full legal review of the legitimacy of this initiative. Respectfully submitted, Ralph Nichols.
Anybody else have an email they want to read? Seeing none. I'm going to reread the agenda bill. Agenda Bill 3527, a resolution calling for a special municipal election to be held on November 5th, 2013, on an ordinance proposed by an initiative petition entitled Ordinance Setting Minimum Employment Standards for Hospitality and Transportation Industry Employers, appointing committee members to prepare the statement for and against the measure for the local voters pamphlet. City Attorney Mary Moranti-Bartolo.
Thank you. At the council study session held on July 9th, the council decided to put this agenda bill on as an action item on tonight's regular council meeting for your consideration and action. This is a resolution calling for a special election on November 5th so that the voters can decide whether to enact this proposed ordinance. Since we were here on July 9th, a few things have happened in other venues. On July 19th, we were before Judge Darvis in the King County Superior Court. There's an action brought against the city by Alaska Airlines and Philo Foods and BF Foods, seeking a writ of prohibition to prevent the council from taking action on this agenda item. They also sought a writ of mandate to convene the Petition Review Board. The petition sponsors also intervened as a party in this matter. The city argued that there's no need to issue a writ to prohibit because if the council takes action to send it to the voters, it does not prevent the plaintiffs from seeking a declaratory relief action either pre-election or post-election. Also, it would allow the city council to adhere to state law in sending it to the elections department pursuant to 3517-260 and our own code of 1.10.220 to call for an election. Also, the judge did not grant the writ of prohibition, and the court also did not make any rulings relating to the validity of the ordinance. Now, those matters are still looming out there. We just don't know when. And then also on that same day, July 19th, the Petition Review Board was convened. Several parties, the same parties, challenged the Certificate of Sufficiency, which was issued on June 28th by Christina Gregg, Attachment 2, to your packet. Specifically, a number of signatures were challenged. Consequently, the Petition Review Board convened fact-finding hearing on July 19th and the 22nd to determine whether the challenged signatures are valid. The board determined that 201 signatures were invalid and should be stricken. However, there were still enough valid signatures to go forward. Therefore, Christina has issued a final certificate of sufficiency dated July 23rd, 2013, which is today. You should all have a copy of that certificate of sufficiency, and now that should serve as attachment 4 to your binder on this agenda bill. The resolution before you, I have also amended to reflect Christina's final certificate of sufficiency as well. That's the only amendment to the resolution. The actual resolution proposes two things. It calls for the election, and it selects committees to serve on the pro and con committee on the voters pamphlet. Now, this assumes the council wants a voters pamphlet, and I can't imagine the council would, on either on majority or minority, I think everybody's in agreement that you probably want a voters pamphlet.
Would a head nod suffice right now?
Correct.
I think everybody's supportive of that.
So the clerk is in receipt of persons wishing to advocate approval of proposition number 1, and those persons listed are Reverend Jan Bolerjack, Judy Volkers, and Celie Savusa. And those wishing to advocate rejection of Prop 1 are CTAC Committee for Truth, which consists of Ralph Nichols, Aaron Sitterly, and Tom Payne. Common Sense Committee, Aaron Sitterly, Leanne Subelbia, and Mike West. And Leanne Subelbia also submitted a separate one before she wanted to be part of the committee. Now, I will point out for the record that the CTAC Committee for Truth did write a letter saying that our interests are the same as the interests of the Common Sense CTAC Committee. We would like you to appoint them. So I just wanted to note that for the record. The rules that apply to this appointment are that you can select no more than 3 per committee, per pro, per rejection. If the council does not select the committee members, the county will select the committee members. So your action, if taken tonight, is 1, to call for the election, number 2, to select the committee for both pro and con. Thank you.
Discussion on this. Oh, we need a motion. Right. Can I get a motion to pass Agenda Bill 3527?
I move that we pass 3527.
Motion, second? We got a second. Discussion. Well, actually, you know, looking at the write-up here, it looks like Proposition 1, the advocates for it are pretty clear. So can I get just a head nod that we're supportive of Reverend Jan Bodajak, Judy Volkers, and Celia Savusa for the pro position on the voters pamphlet? I think we got a head nod on that part of it. The second one is the con position. We have CTAC for Truth, Common Sense CTAC Committee, and Leanne Sepulveda. Madam Counsel?
Yes.
Tell us again the order. Common Sense CTAC for Truth endorsed Common Sense CTAC. Is that correct? That was the order?
Yes. So what happened was, first the letter from CTAC Committee for Truth came in, and then the letter for Common Sense CTAC came in. And then another letter from CTAC Committee for Truth came in saying our goals and interests are in common. We would prefer that you appoint the Common Sense CTAC Committee.
And I think that endorsement would include the individual Leanne Sepulveda as her interest too, would it not?
Correct.
Okay.
She first submitted an individual letter dated July 16th, and then she subsequently was named as part of the Common Sense CTAC Committee. And all of these letters, including the letter, the one from the CTAC Committee for Truth says, in recognition of the common goals of both our committees, we respectfully request that you choose the 3 persons recommended by Common Sense CTAC to write the con statement for the November 2013 voters pamphlet.
Is there any objection to going with the Common Sense CTAC Committee?
Do we have their names? Or?
Yes, they're on your under tab 6 on page 2.
Page 3.
And Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
because this is it will be part of the resolution, we actually need the motion to include the names for both committees,
Okay.
please.
That's what I thought.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, you found the names? Okay.
Yeah,
Do I have a head nod that those would be the ones we would want to include on
Yes.
the motion?
that's fine.
Okay. So I guess that brings us down to what other outstanding issues do we have on this? Just the sending it to the general election?
Correct.
Okay. So let me summarize this. And Madam Clerk, catch me if I'm wrong. Basically, we are what we're voting on now is actually a couple different things. The moving it to the special election to be held November 5th, 2013, and Reverend Jan Bodajak, Judy Volkers, and Celia Savusa as a pro position on the voters pamphlet. The Common Sense CTAC Committee consisting of Aaron Sitterly, Leanne Sepulveda, and Mike West as the con committee, and that we do want to endorse a voters pamphlet.
Correct.
So a yes vote would be for all those.
Yes.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Oh, can I get a motion and a second to approve that as I just stated? Now I can say it again.
Down move.
We got a motion and a second. Any other comment?
So we're just voting on the names.
We're voting on the name and the voter pamphlet, and then we want a voter's pamphlet, and then we're moving it to the general election.
All three things in one vote?
All three things, one vote.
We have more discussion?
Please.
Okay. I have a few things I'd like to say. Well, they're not going to be in any order now, but they were earlier, but I'm responding to some
I'm
comments.
assuming you're going to be talking about the
Moving
committee.
moving
and-
it to the voters.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, moving it to the voters. So I want to respond to one thing I heard this evening and about this, I think it was the San Francisco airport, and I just want to make sure everybody realizes and understands that SeaTac Airport is not a municipal airport. It is not under the control or purview at all of the city of SeaTac, so we don't have anything to do with how they conduct their business. Okay. Also, I wanted to just point out that, just for the heck of it, that SeaTac is just one of a handful of cities in the state that enjoy the initiative process. And under that initiative process, the Washington state law specifies that any initiative only has one subject. So it's limited to addressing one topic. And so my biggest heartburn, I have several things, but my biggest heartburn, I want you all to know this, is that your initiative that has been put together for you addresses multiple issues that cannot even be described in the title of the initiative itself. And therefore, it just makes it a very, very sticky wicket for any of us to do. And I'm not speaking for anyone but myself now, so don't let me give an impression otherwise. And so this is going to be just very, very difficult because I don't think anyone thinks that people shouldn't make a living wage, okay? First of all, I want to get that off the table. But one of my big concerns also is the issues that you've already heard expressed here too about how this puts the city. And it puts us in a place of actually doing things that your unions should be doing for you, in my opinion. And as an example of things that I heard this evening, someone said that they work 8 hours, but they're told they can only be paid for 7. That sounds downright illegal to me, and I don't know why your union isn't stepping in there. And then another one was that service or gratuity charges are not given to the employees. Wow, that doesn't sound right either. So if that's true, your union should be taking care of that for you guys too. So also an objection I have is that this initiative is only for a certain portion of the workforce. It's not equally put out there for everybody. It's just for certain people.
Councilmember Fernald,
to me
again, we're
that's-
not debating the content of the thing. We're just trying to move it on to the general election.
And to me, that's discriminatory. And so for all of those reasons, I would vote no on moving this forward. However, I'm told the council is legally bound to do so. Since we couldn't revise it ourselves, we're only, yes, I see you shaking your head. That's good that you know that. I'm glad. So that's what I have to say.
Okay, we have sir. Okay, if we can constrain to the agenda item covering the voters pamphlet committees, the approval of the voters pamphlet, and really it's not an issue whether or not we're going to move the citizens issue to the general election because it's going to go there. So if you could constrain your comments to that, that'd be great.
It is. It's constrained to that, and it does actually relate to whether or not to move it to the ballot. The dilemma is that, well, so here's, all of us, when we were sworn in, we took an oath of office to obey the law. And so the dilemma is here, if we move it to the ballot, or if we don't move it to the ballot, in either case, we could potentially, well, if we don't move it to the ballot, we know we're violating the law. The law says we do it. if we do move it to the ballot, we are potentially also violating the law. The problem is, it's unknown at this point. And so we're in kind of it places us in a difficult position. No matter what we do, we could be doing something wrong, but we also know no matter what we do, we're going to get sued by one organization or another. So I got a question for Mary. Now, there was a hearing last Friday, and
Correct.
that was Friday morning in Kent. And,
Correct.
It was raising some of the issues about the legality of this. And if it were possible to have that hearing before August 6th, we could find out whether or not this is appropriate to move to the ballot before we reach the deadline of making that decision. So is it possible to have that hearing that was continued from Friday occur before August 6th?
You're correct in that that discussion did occur. The problem with you asking me that question right here and now is the party who would be bringing that motion are the plaintiffs. It's not the city. We are the defendants in this lawsuit.
So are you aware of any?
So I have talked to counsel for Alaska Airlines and Philo Foods, and counsel for Philo Foods is here, and what I have been told is at this time they do not know whether or not they are going to bring a pre-election or a post-election challenge. Is that correct? Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so in either case, it wouldn't happen before August 6th.
Unless it happens tomorrow or the next day.
You see,
And I have no way of knowing until I get served with the papers.
okay, so you see the point is we don't have to make a decision until August 6th. We wouldn't have to do it tonight. If that hearing were going to take place and then we would know the legality, that would be ideal. It would have been wonderful if we had got that answer last Friday, but we didn't. And so what I was hoping to hear was that this hearing could take place sometime before August 6th, so we'd have that information and we could make this decision without doing so in ignorance. So if we don't have it, then I suggest that we go ahead and vote tonight, and we'll have to just find out later. But
Well, actually, we've got a motion and a second, so we are going to vote for it. We're going to vote on it tonight.
well, yes, but you understand what I'm getting at?
Completely.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Ladenburg.
Well, I just, to touch on what Rick has stated, typically the courts don't want to really look at initiatives like this before an election, because if it gets voted down, then they don't have any reason to look at it. They don't expend any funds or decisions on it. So, and even if we do, I think, vote it forward tonight, and if they find later that it's not going to muster the law, it'll never go to the ballot anyway. So, I mean, it happens either way. So, I don't see any reason to hold it up tonight. We might as well move it forward.
Other comments? I think our path is clear. We have a vote. We have a motion and a second on this. Again, what we'll be voting on, a yes vote will be appointing the voter pamphlet committees, approving the voter pamphlet, and moving this citizens initiative to the general election.
I have one comment.
Please.
Thank you, Mayor. So today we heard a confrontation between two classes of people, the people of gold and the people of despair. I think that our role is clear, and that is to let the people of SeaTac speak with power through their vote. So I will support this.
And again, it will come down to what is the will of the voters here. We've got a motion and a second. Hearing no more comments. All in favor of Agenda Bill 3527, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, it sounded unanimous to me. We could move on to our our council comments, or well, let's take a 5-minute break because we've been sitting for a long time. Just so all of you know, we are going to take a 5-minute break, then we're going to come back. And we're just going to have council comments on stuff that's going on in the community. So you can take this opportunity, go out and schmooze or whatever. But thank you again for your respectful contribution to democracy.
Get out.
Councilmember Anderson and
Councilmember Anderson, Terry.
it's time
Can
to
we
start again, Terry.
Start back up. We're going to start.
The meeting's not over. We just took a recess.
Councilmember Forschler.
Rick, you ready to go?
Thanks, Christina.
I'll put it in the drawer.
We're back in order. We're back in business. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Just a few comments this evening. So I've been asked to briefly address the use of public funds and facilities on election campaigns. So on July 11th, I had sent a memo out to all city council candidates informing them of the prohibitions and exceptions to the use of public office or agency facilities in campaigns. This is RCW 42.17A.555. It discussed, among other things, the use of city equipment and facilities and ballot issues at public meetings. Just for information, we have posted this memo on the city's website should anyone be interested in taking a look. If you can go to cityofseatac.com, go to the government drop-down menu, go to Document Central from there, and then under the City Council folder you'll find a file called Campaign Memo. We have two grant application opportunities that I wanted to bring to your attention. First is the 2014 Local Hazardous Waste Management Program grant. This grant comes with $11,182 in revenue. It provides for the safe and proper disposal of hazardous waste collected at the special recycling collection events that the city offers to the residents. The second grant is a 2013 through 2015 Coordinated Prevention Grant Program. Comes with $41,151 in revenue. There is a $13,717 match. We are using other grant funding to satisfy that match. That grant funding is coming from the Local Hazardous Waste Management Program grant that I just described, as well as a waste reduction and recycling grant. This grant provides a total of 4, and this is 2 per year, special recycling collection events that the city offers to its residents. During this cycle, the grant will also support a pilot program for small commercial businesses for waste reduction. And just a couple housekeeping items, calendar items. We have our dedication of our new skate park, which is tomorrow at 2 p.m. at the SeaTac Community Center Neighborhood Park, so hopefully council members can join us there. We have a music in the park also tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. It's at North SeaTac Park at 128th and 20th. We have a theater in the park. The production will be The Tempest at Angle Lake Park at 7 p.m. this Friday. And lastly, just a reminder that August 6th from 4 to 9 p.m. is the 2013 National Night Out. For information, residents can visit the city website calendar and go to August 6th, and they'll find the event there with information linked to it, or they can call Crime Prevention Officer Rich Rowe at 206-973-4904. And also, for the first time this year, the city will be sponsoring, in conjunction with the National Night Out, our first annual Sports Fest at Valley Ridge Park. This is a free event for kids under 12 that will test skills in basketball, soccer, and tennis. There will also be music and refreshments accompanying that event. Thank you.
Mr. Forschler.
Wow. How did I get
Oh,
first?
I'm sorry. I was looking at Mr. Ladenburg. Sorry. Let's keep it in order.
Well, whatever, I guess it doesn't matter if Rick wants. Okay, so what should I talk about?
What a great night it was.
Yeah, we had quite a few people here tonight, so I know a lot of them have left, but I know some people have left. I know the people are going to be watching on TV as far as their computer monitors go. So yeah, I want to talk just briefly about the initiative that we've heard a lot about here tonight, and that is we got to be careful about misinformation, and this happens in almost any initiative. And so what I would urge the voters to do is to actually get this initiative, the document, and read it. You know, I know that a lot of this council was somewhat surprised when they first heard about it and actually read it. I've read it several times now, actually. And I'm a little concerned about it because, you know, misinformation, of course, is out there on it, and we've heard a lot of time about small businesses, but from what I read in it, small businesses aren't affected. We've heard about raising minimum wage across the city, and it doesn't do that either. So, I mean, it's important to read about it so you can get the facts for yourself. If you don't quite understand that initiative, you can have somebody try to explain it to you, I guess. I'm certainly trying to do that. One of the problems I have with it is it does somewhat pit the city between the employer and the employee. And so I have a little problem with that. I don't think it's necessary. I think it could have been handled differently. But, I think the courts could have done that. I mean, they're used to winners and losers. That's kind of what they deal with all the time. So there's issues. And I know every council member here may have different thoughts on it. And I see in there, we hear a lot about the cost of it, and I'm looking at that, and it says the attorney doesn't have to expend any
Bless you.
cost. So I'm wondering how you can enforce something with no cost. Another thing, about this initiative is that while I may have a concern with that, I do somewhat agree with the issue that it addresses, and that's these minimum wage jobs. How did we get here? We've got employers hiring people for minimum wage job for, year-round jobs, which I don't think minimum wage was ever designed to do. We heard about people at the mic tonight that said, yeah, I had a minimum wage job, and I worked for 3 or 4 months, and I moved on and got a better job. And that's fine. That's what you can do. The problem with these jobs that we're looking at here is they're in SeaTac. So as a community, we see them all the time here in SeaTac. You can't go and refuel planes in Federal Way. You can't go clean 767s down in, Tukwila. If you're going to clean hotel rooms, you're going to go where the majority of the hotel rooms are. And we in this city have more than anywhere else in the state except for maybe Seattle. So I hear about people, who've helped themselves and moved up, but those jobs don't leave here. Whether one person does it for 15 years or 15 people do it for 15 years, it's always a minimum wage job in SeaTac. That's the problem for this community. That's what we're facing. I don't know when it became okay in this country to hire somebody for minimum wage and pay them 22, 24 hours a week. That's not what I call the American way. And so I'm just a little concerned about that. And I think it does raise that issue. And, we were surprised to see it, but I don't think these businesses were. I don't know how they could be. I mean, we had to close down International Boulevard for a rally. We saw marches down the International Boulevard, rallies at the park, rallies at the airport, strikes. I mean, it's not like they didn't hear this coming. I know that me and a couple other council members, we tried to talk to some of these businesses. We couldn't get them on the phone. Well, we can get them on the phone now. They're more than willing to talk to us now. But we're not in control here. This is the people's initiative. So it has to go forward. Minimum wage, what I call minimum wage abuse of both the employees and the wage. When you hire somebody for 22, 24 hours a week, pay minimum wage, you've had that employee for 10 years. That's not what it was meant for. It was meant for the seasonal worker, which we heard today. The person that's going to work during the Christmas season, or maybe come home during school and work picking cucumbers down in the valley or something like I did. That's what minimum wage was about. And somehow we subplanted that into full-time wages. And here in SeaTac, and I hear a lot about Alaska Airlines, so they're not the only player here. We got several airlines and hoteliers. They paid pretty good wage back in 2005, and then they start subcontracting out their services. And for me, that's not really, well, that's another company. We have no say in what they do. Well, we contract services here at the city, and we certainly check to see what they're doing before we do it. So I don't want to go on too long, but I just want to say, for the voter, get educated, because misinformation could be very costly for your city. So that's about it. I appreciate your time, Mr. Mayor.
Absolutely. Mr. Forsyth.
Thank you. So, Wow, this was quite a meeting. I think that was the most people we've ever had here, I'm pretty sure. So about this ordinance, this initiative, I'm opposed to it because it will harm the city, its residents, the businesses, and it'll harm the very people that it's intended to help. I have no doubt that people are struggling. I mean, our family's struggling, many people are. And they desire higher wages. The problem is this initiative is not going to achieve the results they want. Historically, whenever there is a new minimum wage increase, those whose skills do not equal the minimum wage lose their jobs. They don't get paid more. The unemployment rate increases for the unskilled every time the minimum wage goes up. Employees are extremely mobile, even though facilities like the airport are not. So when there's a higher wage available, people will move to acquire that wage. What happens is that some workers will lose their jobs and as the jobs go away, and others will be replaced by other people whose skills equal that new wage. The question is really not between the greedy and the needy, but between those who understand how to increase their own employability and those who want government to intervene and create a shortcut on their behalf. Striving to get paid more by changing jobs is normal. Not all jobs are living wage jobs. Entry-level jobs are normal. People, myself, I started flipping hamburgers when I was a teenager. Worked 2 jobs when I was going to community college. Those were entry-level jobs. I didn't get to a living wage job until about the 5th job that I had. That's normal. That's the way I think people should expect jobs to be. Saying that all of them should be living wages ignores the fact that skills change over time and that people increase their marketability as an employee over time. So that's all I've got to say on this subject. I had another one I wanted to talk about. We got an interesting email from Vicki Lockwood about costs in the city. I'm going to save that for next time, Vicki. There's just too much this time. But thank you for sending it. That's all tonight. Thank you.
Terry.
I think there's no doubt in anybody's mind. There's no doubt in anybody's mind how I feel about this, and I'm just going to let it go at the present time. And next meeting, this will come up again, I'm sure. And I think we'll have time to either relaunch or give up, one or the other.
Councilmember Fernald.
Well, yeah, let's see here. Todd said 2 things I was going to say about the ribbon cutting at the new skate park tomorrow afternoon. And I've been seeing, I drive by there quite often, and I've been seeing the kids in there already. I don't know if they've supposed to have been in there. I don't know how they're getting in there, but I've seen them. So it's usable. And then the night out also. That's a big one for me. That excites me always. So August 6th, everybody get ready. And I have 2 items. I don't see any park people here. For the service request, city manager, sir. So on 136th, when we became a tree city, we planted 2 weeping firs or something, weeping something or others, pines maybe. Anyway, I noticed yesterday one of them is gone. Oh, no. And it's been looking sickly, so I suspect that it's been taken to the hospital or something similar to that. But could we verify that? I want to know if it was stolen or if it's just in, getting better.
Sure, we'll get back
to you.
to you on
Could you find out that
Absolutely.
for me? Thank you. And also, I guess I have to say this. So on or about June 17th, I contacted the contact I have at the Port of Seattle to do code compliance work on the L-shaped property. And I mostly wanted it to be taken care of by the 4th of July, so there wouldn't be a fire. And there wasn't a fire. However, the property is still not in code compliance, and the grass is high, and you cannot look in there and see who's sleeping in there. When they keep it down, you can drive by and you can see, and that people throw their furniture in there and everything else. So could we look into that?
Absolutely.
Non-compliant, in my opinion.
And just for my clarification, who is it that's supposed to be contacting the Port of Seattle when we have complaints of that sort? That goes through your office, does it not?
It does. Assistant City Manager Vopel is our liaison to the port.
Okay, so she would be the one to contact. So.
But I did it first, though, because I had done it previously with our other person that was here, and they always took care of it. But Gwen, I've talked with Gwen.
Okay.
I didn't go around her. She knows. And then my last thing, I just, you know, the city of SeaTac, okay, I was born and raised right here, okay? Just, that's it. And this was a blue-collar city. It always has been. And I'm proud of that. And I'm proud of the city. And what I kind of, I don't know, resent, I don't know what adjective I want to assign to this, but I really don't appreciate outsiders coming into our city and agitating and trying to make it an Occupy movement and pit the needy against the greedy and the 1% and the 99%. I really don't appreciate that. I'm just venting. And so, you know, if folks want to get a decent wage, what they consider a decent wage, you know, have at it. I don't have anything against that. But as I already said, too, this initiative is not by the state law. It has multiple subjects. Yeah, take that down. It has multiple subjects. And by state law, there should only be one subject to the initiative. So it just makes it really sticky and icky and not straightforward for everyone to deal with. So we're trying. Anyway, that's it. Thank you.
And Councilmember Fernald, I wasn't blaming you, accusing you of going around. I was just wanting to make sure that the people that were watching, if they have a complaint that they need to get to the port, that they would get it through the
Gwen.
assistant,
Yeah,
Gwen,
city manager.
the
Yeah.
assistant city manager.
Cool.
Mr. Bush.
Yes, sir. Well, almost a year and a half ago, I went to my first JAC meeting with the Port of Seattle, and I stepped up at that time and kind of blistered the port commissioners and the people that ran the court and about this very subject that we're talking about. And what my suggestion was at that time, and I've seen them several times since then, is for them to set up some standards for their contractors so that we don't have this kind of problem. And here we are now, a year and a half later, and they haven't done anything, and here we are. We've got people that are supposedly working 4 hours and hiring somebody else for the other 4 and getting minimum wage, et cetera. And I'm sure some of those jobs are probably minimum wage jobs, and they may not be justified to pay them more now. But I'm sure that there's some of them that they should get. And some of them, one person said they had been there for 30 years and never got a raise. I think I would have found another job, but that's me. And I think same thing kind of goes for the hotels. From the sound of things, and I've talked to Mr. Ostrander from the Cedar Brook Lodge, and it looks like he takes good care of his employees. And some of the other hotels, it's not, you can't paint a broad brush on this thing. And I think there's a few of them that aren't doing what they should be doing, and that's taking care of their employees. That said, I also went to a union meeting about the same time, about a year and a half ago. And I am a firm believer that if you're a ditch digger and you want to get more money, you need to learn to work the backhoe. And it's just that simple. And you need to educate yourself. And I know that for these people it's very hard to do that because some of them don't speak English and they don't have the resource to do that. And hopefully some of that they can find a way to do so. They need to educate themselves and grow up, get a better job. This isn't good for our city, in my opinion, because for the city itself. we're going to have to hire some extra people. We don't know how much it's going to cost us if we have to monitor this thing, and that's a little bit of concern of mine. So I'm kind of in the middle on a lot of this, but it's a tough subject. There's some people out here, our schools are running 100% free lunch at Madrona, 85 at 2 of the other schools, and I think it's 75 at the other one on our grade schools. So we've got some serious problems here. But I don't know that this is necessarily the answer to it. And I think getting some standards at the airport would really make a huge difference. And if these hotels will step up like they should, you know, and make things a little bit better for these people, and try to work with the union if they can. So anyhow, we're kind of in the middle on it. So that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. So one piece of business is that we got an email, the mayor and I got an email from Mayor Hagerton from Tukwila today asking for some help in regards to the Amtrak station that